What if the moment she feared the most was the moment her life finally changed? The gunshot cracked across the dusty Montana street before Vivien Nelson even had time to react. 1 second she was stepping out of Clearwater's general store with a small paper package of sugar and coffee in her hands, and the next she was stumbling backward into the dirt, her heart pounding as if trying to break free from her chest. She ducked behind a water trough, breath sharp and tight. Silverdale had seen trouble before, but this was the third bank robbery in a month, each one making the small town more tense than the last. When the shooting faded and the rush of horse hooves thundered away into the hills, Vivien slowly rose. Dust covered her blue calico dress, and a loose strand of auburn hair fell from her bun as she brushed herself off. At 32, she was young by most standards, yet grief had left faint lines around her mouth and eyes that made her seem older. 2 years of widowhood had done that. 2 years of shouldering everything alone on a farm that seemed to take more strength each day. "You all right there, Mrs. Nelson?" Sheriff Thompson called, his revolver still drawn as he looked toward the bank. "I'm fine," she answered softly. "Thank you." He frowned. "Those Blackwell boys are getting bold. Be careful heading back to your place. It's mighty isolated out there." "I will." Vivien started the long walk home, the hot afternoon sun beating down on her shoulders. She wished she had brought her wagon, but she had tried to save the last bit of hay for her mule. Money was tight. Everything was tight. The farm was failing. The bank was close to taking it. And though she tried to deny it, loneliness weighed on her the most. The house felt too quiet. The nights felt too long. She was lost in thought when a shadow fell across her path. Vivien looked up quickly. A tall man sat on a chestnut stallion, hat brim shading his face. His shoulders were broad, his posture straight, his presence strong enough to make her heart tense with caution. "Ma'am," he said with a polite tip of his hat. His voice was deep and warm, touched with a soft Virginia drawl. "Looks like you could use a ride." Vivien stiffened. "I don't accept rides from men I don't know." "Fair enough." The stranger nodded once, not offended. "Wade Zanders, new ranch hand at the Triple Bar, rode in just last week." He held out a calloused hand. "And you must be the widow Nelson. Folks said you live a few miles out." "Word travels fast," she muttered. "In small towns it always does." He smiled gently. "I give you my word. I mean no harm. And it's a mighty hot day to be walking." Vivien hesitated. Daniel had always warned her to be careful. Still, something steady and calm in Wade's voice eased the knot in her chest. At last she reached up and took his hand. He pulled her up behind him, and she settled on the saddle, unsure where to place her hands. "You'll want to hold on, Mrs. Nelson," Wade said. "Samson's got a bit of spirit." Her hands rested lightly at his waist. She felt the firmness beneath his cotton shirt and pulled back a little, startled by the simple shock of human contact after 2 long years. They rode in silence, but it was a gentle silence, not the heavy kind she lived with at home. When they reached her small farmhouse with its peeling paint and tired vegetable garden, embarrassment warmed her cheeks. The place had fallen apart since Daniel died. "Thank you, Mr. Zanders," she said as he helped her down. "Wade," he corrected, his blue eyes meeting hers. And it was no trouble at all. She expected him to leave, but he did not. His gaze drifted to her porch step, the one with the deep crack. "That's dangerous," he said. "You could fall." "I'm aware," Vivien answered, defensive from habit. Without another word, Wade dismounted and crouched to examine the step. "I could fix this for you. I don't need charity." "It's not charity." He looked up at her with calm patience. "It's a neighbor helping a neighbor. And I'd feel mighty bad hearing you broke your ankle because I rode away." Before she could argue further, he pulled tools from his saddlebag and set to work. Vivien watched him, stubborn pride wavering against the simple truth that she did need help. "Would you care for some water?" she finally offered. "That would be welcome," he replied. As Wade worked, Vivien found herself studying him. He wasn't classically handsome. His face was weathered, his jaw strong, his nose slightly crooked as if broken once. Yet there was something steady, almost comforting in his presence. His hands moved with confidence, each strike of the hammer sure and clean. When he finished, he refused her offer of payment. "Just being neighborly," he said. "Though I wouldn't mind stopping by again. Looks like a few other things around here could use fixing." "I manage fine on my own," she said quickly. Wade gave a small nod, as if he understood the fight inside her. "I'm sure you do. But even the strongest folks need a hand now and then." After he rode away, Vivien stood on the porch for a long moment, watching the dust trail his horse left behind. The sudden quiet felt heavier than before, as if something warm had slipped away too soon. She told herself it was loneliness returning, but deep inside, she knew it was something else. Something she had not felt in a long time, a spark. Vivien tried to convince herself that Wade Xander's visit had meant nothing, a simple kindness, a passing moment. A neighbor doing what any decent man might do. But as the days went by, she found her thoughts drifting back to the way he had spoken, the way he had worked quietly and without complaint, the way his gentle humor had eased the tightness she always carried in her chest. Then he came again, and again, always with some excuse, a board he happened to have, a tool he needed to return, a nail he forgot to hammer all the way in. Each time, he would fix something. A loose hinge, a leaking roof edge, a broken fence post, and each time, Vivien felt her guard slip just a little. One warm afternoon, with summer sun turning her fields gold, she brought him a glass of lemonade as he worked on her chicken coop. For a long moment, she stood there holding the glass, watching him hammer a board into place with steady, sure strokes. "Why are you doing all this?" she finally asked. Wade set the hammer down and took a long drink before answering. "Because it needs doing. There are plenty of things that need doing all over Silverdale," she said. "Why my farm?" He looked at her directly. "Maybe I like the company." She stared at him, unsure how to answer. "I'm hardly good company, Mr. Xanders. I barely speak." "Some people say plenty without many words," he replied, eyes warm. "And I thought we agreed you'd call me Wade." Something fluttered in Vivien's chest. She pushed it down quickly. "I should get back to my baking." "Vivien," he said, stopping her in her tracks. It was the first time he'd said her name. She froze, but did not turn around. "I'll be finished here soon," he said. "Would it be an imposition if I stayed for supper? I brought fresh venison." Her heart beat faster. A widow did not invite a single man for supper. She should refuse. She knew she should. But the house had been so quiet, and the thought of someone sitting across from her at the table felt warm. "It would be acceptable," she said at last, "as payment for your work." Quote, that evening marked a turning point. Over venison stew and warm cornbread, Vivien spoke more freely than she had in years. Wade told her about Virginia, about how the war had taken everything from him: family, home, youth. He spoke without bitterness, which surprised her. "How did your husband die?" he asked gently. "Influenza," she said, twisting her wedding ring. 2 winters ago." "I'm sorry," he said softly. His sympathy felt real, not empty like the words she'd heard from townsfolk. Something eased inside her. "We were childhood sweethearts," she found herself saying. "Married at 16. "And now you carry on," Wade said. "That takes strength." "What choice did I have?" she whispered. "There's always a choice," he replied. "You could have left, but you stayed. That says something." Vivien didn't know what to say to that. After supper, he looked around her kitchen. "Your north field lies empty," he said. "With help, you could plant winter wheat, sell the crop by spring." She crossed her arms. "And who would help me plant it?" Quote. Wade chuckled. "Me and a couple of the Triple Bar boys. The boss owes me." "And why?" she asked. "Would you do that?" He held her gaze. "Maybe I'd like to know you better?" Her breath caught. The room felt smaller, warmer, heavier. "I'll consider it," she whispered. True to his word, Wade returned with 2 ranch hands. Together they plowed and planted the north field. The work was hard, but for the first time in 2 years, Vivien felt hope growing beneath her feet. Autumn painted the hills orange and gold, and every day she found herself waiting for the sound of Wade's horse. She baked extra bread, she smoothed her hair. She put on a nicer dress. She told herself it meant nothing. But her heart knew. One evening, as they sat on her porch watching the sunset, she spoke the truth out loud. "People in town are talking," she said quietly. "About us?" Wade asked. "Yes. Does it bother you?" "It should," she said, fingers twisting her wedding ring. "I'm still in mourning." 2 years is a long time to mourn, he said gently. "Not when you've lost half your soul." Wade didn't look away. "Daniel wouldn't want you to stop living. No man who loves a woman would want her to stay lonely forever." Her throat tightened. "How do you know?" "Because I know what loss feels like," he said softly. "And if I loved someone, I'd want them to find happiness again." A tear slid down her cheek. Wade reached out and took her hand. She didn't pull away. "It's not betrayal to live," he said. "It's courage." As the sun dipped below the mountains, she let his hand stay on hers. Winter arrived. The wheat slept beneath the snow. Wade came by less because the Triple Bar needed every man they had. She told herself it didn't matter. But it did. On Christmas Eve, a blizzard raged across the plains. Vivien sat alone by her fire when a pounding shook the door. She opened it to find Wade covered in snow. "What are you doing here?" she gasped. "Couldn't let you spend Christmas alone," he said. From his coat he pulled a small package. Inside was a single silver hairpin with a tiny pearl. "It was my mother's," he said quietly. "One of the few things I saved. I want you to have it." Quote, "I can't," she whispered. "It's too precious." "So are you." Her breath caught. He took a step closer. "Vivien," he said softly, "may I call on you properly? No more pretending I'm only here to fix things." She closed her eyes. The fire cracked behind her. Snow swirled outside. Wade waited, breathless. "Yes," she whispered. His smile was softer than snowfall. And everything changed. The blizzard kept Wade stranded at Vivien's farm for 2 days. He slept in the barn out of respect, but they spent hours together inside the warm little home. They read from her small collection of books, played checkers by the fire, and talked late into the night. Something gentle and steady grew between them, something that made the house feel less empty, less cold. When the storm cleared and Wade returned to the Triple Bar Ranch, Vivien watched him ride away with a feeling she had not known in years. Not fear, not grief, hope. Through the long winter, Wade visited whenever he could. His knock on the door became a sound she waited for, a sound that made her heart lift just a little each time. He brought small things, a ribbon for her hair, a book of old poems, fresh bread from the ranch cook. Nothing grand, nothing flashy, just thoughtful things that made her feel seen. As the harsh cold slowly faded, and March winds pushed the snow back into the hills, the winter wheat began to sprout, tiny green blades rising through the soil like miracles. One evening, Vivien stood at the edge of the field, her hands wrapped around herself, eyes soft with wonder. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Wade said as he walked up beside her. "It is," she whispered. "It looks like life starting again." Wade smiled. "That's exactly what it is." He gently took her hand, a gesture that felt natural now, warm, safe. She didn't pull away. "Vivien," he said softly, "I need to tell you something." Her stomach tightened. "What is it?" Quote, "I've been offered a position managing a ranch near Helena. Good pay, a cabin of my own." "Oh," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "That's wonderful." "When do you leave?" she asked, even though the question hurt. Wade looked directly at her. "That depends on you." She froze. "On me? I won't take it if you ask me to stay." Her breath caught. The wind rustled the wheat sprouts. The sky above them turned gold with sunset. "I can't ask that," she said. "It's too big a thing." "Then I'll ask something of you," Wade said gently. "What do I have here, Vivien? Truly?" "You have work," she said weakly. "And what else?" he pressed. Vivien swallowed hard, her heart shaking. "Me," she whispered. Wade nodded slowly. "If you'll have me." Those words unlocked what she'd kept buried deep. Fear, longing, guilt, hope, everything tangled inside her at once. "I'm afraid, Wade," she admitted. "What if I can't love you the way you deserve? What if I'm still too broken?" "We're all broken," Wade said softly. "The beauty is in how we piece ourselves back together." His hand brushed the wedding ring she still wore. "I'm not asking you to forget Daniel. You loved him. That matters. But loving me doesn't mean losing him. It just means making room." Her breath trembled. "Wade." "I love you, Vivien," he said, voice steady, "with everything I am." She felt the truth of it in her bones. Warm, honest, patient love. A love she never expected to feel again. Wade went down on one knee there beside the sprouting wheat. "Vivien Nelson," he said, "I want a life with you, a home with you, a future with you. Will you marry me?" Tears blurred her vision. Her hand shook as she reached up and slid her wedding ring from her finger. She held it against her heart, then placed it gently in her pocket. It would always be part of her, but it no longer defined her. "Yes," she whispered. Then she said it louder, steadier. "Yes, Wade Zanders, I will marry you." He rose and kissed her, a kiss full of tenderness and promise. A kiss that made her feel alive in a way she had not felt since she was 16 under Montana summer skies. They were married in May, surrounded by friends and neighbors and the tall green wheat that whispered in the warm breeze. Vivien wore a simple cream dress and the pearl hairpin Wade had given her on Christmas Eve. Wade wore his best shirt and the happiest smile she had ever seen. Life did not become easy, but it became full. The wheat harvest gave them enough money to pay off the bank and buy a small herd of cattle. They built fences, repaired barns, planted more fields. They worked side by side, sweat and tired muscles turning into laughter and quiet moments under the stars. Vivien found herself singing sometimes while she cooked. Wade brought her flowers, wild ones he picked on the ridge. They made a home, one with warmth and noise and love. The next spring, Vivien discovered she was expecting a child. She sat with Wade by the fire one night and whispered the fear lingering in her heart. "I feel guilty," she said, "being this happy when Daniel is gone." Wade took her hands gently. "Loving me doesn't take away what you had with him. Love isn't a single path. It grows wherever we let it." Her eyes filled. She placed his hand on her stomach. "Our child will never know him. But they'll know his story," Wade said firmly. "We'll tell them. We'll keep him alive in the ways that matter." Vivien had never loved Wade more. Their daughter, Elizabeth Daniel Zanders, arrived on a soft spring morning. When Vivien watched Wade hold their baby girl with trembling joy, she felt a peace she had never expected to feel again. The years that followed brought challenges: storms, droughts, stubborn cattle, long winters. But they faced everything together. Their home grew, their land prospered, and their family expanded with the birth of their son, James. On their 5th anniversary, they stood again at the edge of the North Field, now part of a thriving ranch. Their children played in the tall grass. Wade wrapped his arm around her. "Did you ever imagine this?" he asked. "Never," she whispered. "After Daniel died, I thought my life was over." "And now?" he asked quietly. Vivien leaned into him, her heart full. "Now I know something beautiful." "What's that?" Wade asked. "That sometimes the heart breaks, so it can open again." He kissed her softly. "I'm glad you opened yours to me." Vivien looked at the land, at their children, at the man who had brought light back into her life. "I whispered once that no one would want me," she said. Wade smiled and pulled her close. "And I answered then, and I answer now. I do." And she knew for all the days of her life it would remain true.